The conflict in Ukraine has persisted into its second year, and more questions are arising as to its future. Scholars have pointed to peace deals, annexation, and potentially nuclear outcomes as it relates to the future of this conflict. One such scholar is Henry Hale, a professor of international affairs at the George Washington University. GWTV spoke to Professor Hale about the unique nature of this conflict, as well as what to expect going forward.
It's very rare that states actually try to annex territory from another country, especially in the heart of Europe. And so it certainly escalates the crisis, and I think probably reinforces Ukrainians' determination to fight back, and probably also galvanizes international support, certainly in the West, for opposing the war, lest other countries get the idea of doing something similar in the future.
We also spoke to Professor Hale about the response from the West, a response that has the potential to significantly alter the outcome of this war.
I think the West, NATO, the United States, the European Union, are trying to strike a difficult balance in trying, first of all, to support Ukraine as much as possible in the war against Russia, but not to actually make the war be about Russia versus NATO. And so the arms provisions are a way of trying to strengthen Ukraine, but without committing troops from the Western countries to actually oppose Russia.
Hale briefly touched on the possibility of Russia going nuclear, as well as the implications of such a decision, not just in Russia, but also around the world.
Many analysts think that should Russia actually go nuclear in the conflict, that would create a backlash within Russia itself against Putin, as well as galvanize even the opinion of neutral countries in this war. Countries within the European Union, like Germany, that had always tried to occupy a more pacifist stance, or at least to avoid being more directly involved in armed conflict, are now having to face real questions about, is this sustainable in the longer run while there's actually war in Europe? And they've decided that it's not, that they're going to have to transform into a more militarized country in the sense of being able to help defend the rest of Europe against Russian invasion.
When looking at this conflict, it is especially important to note the perseverance of Ukraine and its people. Hale did not hesitate to commend Ukraine on its handling of the crisis thus far.
Ukraine has done surprisingly well from the perspective of most observers. And I say surprising because most people didn't expect Ukrainians to be able to resist what seemed like a Russian military juggernaut. I think that resistance has had two main sources. I actually think the least important has probably been the military reform that Ukraine underwent since 2014. Although I think that's still very significant. Ukraine's military has become a much stronger fighting force. But I think it's more about the Ukrainian people and the fact that Ukrainian society is mobilized so strongly. And that can be a very powerful force supporting any military. It just makes it much more easy, much more effective for the Ukrainian military to operate if it did not have that kind of support.
Hale concluded by indicating that there's still plenty more to come with the war in Ukraine.
It's increasingly becoming a fight between the numbers that Russia's authoritarian system can toss into the mix versus Ukrainians' grit and determination, with both sides having significant supplies of weapons.